Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm going to go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Good morning. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the program, Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning, from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We've got a good show lined up. It's Wednesday. That means we have JC, and then we'll have Mike Morgan from ESPN get his thoughts. He called the Oklahoma game. He also called the Bears and the 49ers. We'll get his thoughts on college football, NFL football, whatever you got, shoot it to us. We're glad you're along for the ride. It is Wednesday, and JC, you are on the Titan MR hotline. What do you think about that?
I think it's great that a school like Appalachian State's got 62 wins in 6 seasons. QB, what's that average out to be?
How many? 62 and 6?
Yeah.
A little over 10.
I mean, that's incredible if you ask me. But we've got Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and Nebraska all losing to Sun Belt teams last weekend. I think that's what makes this season so far really interesting. Even after 2 weeks, QB, the Sun Belt last weekend dominated the news headlines of college football. I mean, what Marshall did, what Georgia Southern did, and of course what Appy State did is the biggest story so far. And I tell you, going forward, QB, it's looking really good that if you're a Texas A&M fan, you are having such remorse right now after giving Jimbo Fisher 4+ years to an already existing contract that was a 10-year, $75 million contract, to a contract that's close to $10 million per year, fully guaranteed. That means that if Jimbo Fisher loses this weekend to Miami and the fans start raising hell in Texas A&M, the only way they're going to get rid of this guy is to pony up $85 million, and that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I'll tell you, Tyler Van Dyke in Miami is going to go into College Station this weekend, and it could be another disappointing weekend unless Texas A&M figures out how to run the football and how to play offense. And I think this will be the weekend that Max Johnson sees the field in College Station. So I think that's what we could look forward to around the world. This game with Florida and South Florida is, to me, an opportunity for the University of Florida to get better doing things that we did not see them do last week, and that's throw the ball effectively. And I don't know what you can gauge playing an opponent like this as you are running with the Bulls right there, QB. But this is a game I think that's needed after 2 really tough starts.
Yeah, there's no question. South Florida's just – they're awful. I don't have any other way to say it, but they're awful. Can't overlook them. Obviously, we get all that, but they're a bad football team. Back to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure A&M has Miami this week.
Yes.
Then they have Arkansas. Then they have Mississippi State. Then they have Alabama.
And if they can't run the football, that's 4 losses. That is 4 losses. And now –
let me back up.
Go ahead.
If they can't throw and catch, it's 4 losses. The hell with running the football.
Oh, well, no, I understand that, but it's not all on Haynes King. I mean, you should see what their average yardage per play is and what their running numbers are. It is so demonstrably bad. Running the football has become really difficult. And the play calling last weekend against Appy State was very confusing. Appy State blitzed 4% of the time in that game, and really just stuffed Texas A&M without putting pressure on them. So it's really, to me, the time for panic. It is. You hit the panic button in week 3 when you look as badly as you did last week, and really was unimpressive in week 1. They had, let's see, I'm trying to find, there's a number where I pulled up that was just unbelievable to me in that game against Appy State. But regardless, that's in the past now. They have to move on to Max Johnson, I think, if they want to see some offense. And I think Max Johnson last year, QB, he was the guy that beat LSU. He was the guy last seen throwing for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against LSU in that game. And, they've got to use their weapons. So A&M's got some things to figure out, but this is not going to be easy with the games they have ahead of them. So, and I'll tell you, that 4-game stretch you just mentioned is tough. I also looked at Georgia's schedule, QB, and we all have already crowned Georgia Bulldogs, the NCAA champions this year, and we're basically comparing them to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Georgia has 2 games in November on the road back-to-back at Mississippi State and at Kentucky. That could be interesting, but that's so far away right now. All I can think of is how they're going
Georgia,
to be
I'm going to tell you right now,
basically ranked number 1 for the rest
Georgia
of the
will not have one problem with the Kentucky Wildcats.
Well,
they will destroy that offensive line that they have.
I'm just trying to look at their schedule and see what is what's challenging there. They get Tennessee at home, QB. They get Florida.
No, I know. I'm just saying they ain't got a chance against Georgia. Scott, we got great statisticians and researchers on this program. Scott says on Facebook Live, this season is the first time since 1968 that the Gators have not thrown a touchdown pass in the first 2 games.
Oh, wow.
Who was quarterback in 1968? You got any idea?
1968 would be right after Spurrier, I think. So I don't have an idea. QB, the only ball that did go in the air through from Anthony to a receiver in the end zone, I guess, was a 2-point conversion. So, gosh, that's kind of surprising. But listen, look, Kentucky watched tape. They forced Florida to do things that maybe Florida wasn't ready to do. So Florida will have to get ready to do that.
But see, I thought here I'm gonna give you my thoughts. Stoops had a great game plan. His plan, in simple terms, the quarterback is going to have to beat us throwing the football.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple. Okay. And I had all these people on these different shows ask me, well, it doesn't seem like Billy Napier there made adjustments. That's not true. If you complete the balls when people are open, the plan looks fine, right?
Well, they probably didn't watch the game, QB, when they say that, and if they did watch the game, then you're saying they couldn't tell that a guy was open. So,
I don't know what they were watching. We had guys open.
Well, that's what this weekend's about, QB. It's about execution. It's about getting things done and executing them, even though you're playing an inferior opponent. You still got to do it.
So the quarterback in 1968 was a gentleman named Jack Ekdahl. You remember him?
No.
I don't know. Never heard of him.
My Gator watching days started in 70 and 71 or 72 or one of those years.
So we got a text on the Titan Our text line from Dave. He says, love your show. AR is a tremendous athlete. Everyone agrees.
Yep, right.
I love his humility and selfless attitude, but as a pleaser personality type, he will struggle high-level performance consistency due to placing too much pressure on himself when he fails to perform to his coaches, players, and fans' expectations. This was obvious by his facial expressions and body language after multiple challenging moments in the UK game. He admitted his confidence issue. That's revealing. Question, can Coach Napier develop mental toughness in AR? Thoughts? Great question. I don't know. Look, he will play fine this week. My only concern was were his comments about, I've never heard of a quarterback talk about losing their confidence.
Yeah.
So they got to build his confidence back up quickly because we're going to have a tough battle in Neyland Stadium. I can tell you that.
You better believe they are. The difference will be, though, and maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, QB, but the difference will be that that Tennessee pass rush, which is very aggressive, will have a harder time getting to Anthony than I think Keaton Slovis, who doesn't move very well. So, he does move, but
here's the thing. Here's the thing, JC.
Yeah.
Tennessee is going to slow rush. Like I told you, they're not going to rush hard because they're going to make him stay in the pocket and throw the football.
Yeah, I know. I was just taken by how aggressive they were defensively, and I haven't seen a Tennessee defense like that in over 10 years. So, look, that's next week. We'll get to that. But I think what Tennessee's win at Pittsburgh did, what Kentucky's win at Florida did, basically show everybody that Florida's number 4 right now. And number 4 in the East means that, we're looking at 5 losses easily this year. And that's what I think people are afraid of and didn't expect. But to me, that Utah win and this team is about culture. It's about changing the ways of the last couple of years. And win or lose, they're still going to be okay because they've got the right guy pushing the buttons. And that means we're going to see players coming in here that you don't have on the field today that in the future will enable Florida to be where they want to be. And if Tennessee can do it, if Kentucky can do it, Florida will do it. And that means getting better players. That's what Tennessee has right now. That's what Kentucky has right now. And at one point in time, not very long ago, they didn't have very good players, QB. We saw a Tennessee defense come in here not very long ago that couldn't tackle. And right now, they got headhunters out there. And I'm not saying they're the next version of the Chicago Bears in '85, but what I'm saying is that gets them a chance on offense to win games. And that's what happened last weekend.
Yep. Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Darling Weeby, a realtor with Caldwell Banker, M. Parish, providing fast, friendly, reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. We've got JC on the Titan More Hotline. We'll be joined by Mike Morgan from ESPN about 8:25. Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. John says, QB, have you got your Amazon Prime Video all set up? Great game Thursday between the Chiefs and the Chargers. I do not. I don't know how I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
we got to pick that game today. By the way, JC,
you might have.
How are you going to watch it?
I might. Well, I'm going to leave the house. I'll go to the.
That's the last thing I want to do. Is go
well, I know, but you don't want to watch the game. You want to watch the game. Just go sit on a table by yourself in the corner. Nobody will bother you. Maybe you can go to. Wait, don't you have your own corner advisors sitting right over there in a little corner?
I could. I could do that.
I'll tell you what. How about you and me go to Visors? Screw it. We'll just go to Visors Thursday. We'll wear our hats low like this, and nobody will come and look for your picture.
Is that a Kansas Jayhawk hat you wear?
Damn right, baby.
Did they win?
God, did they win? Dude, they're lighting up the scoreboard like they haven't in since Gale Sayers. Okay, they beat the hell out of West Virginia. They are running all over the field. They're going to win again this week. It's unbelievable. And that's what I'm saying is that if programs like this can find players, Florida they're going to find their players. QB, they'll get what they want, and Billy will find what he wants, and Florida will be fine. But look at Kansas right now. That's the talk of the Big 12.
I haven't heard about it, so they ain't been talking a whole lot.
Well, Chris Kleiman at K-State has made people's head turn. Yeah. And this dude, Lance Leipold,
I think it's Leopold.
Yeah, well, he has really shaken the base at Kansas. And this was a dead and moribund program, how about that word. And now they're 2-0, and they're going to win some games this year. They may be bowl eligible by the end of the year. I'm excited. I watched their offense, dude. They move it. They move it down the field. They got Houston this week. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if they beat Houston Cougars. Not one.
Joseph says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mello, I love our QB. I'm his biggest fan, but he missed numerous wide open guys that could have been big plays or TDs. Agreed. It baffles me how. I mean, I can't tell you how many shows I listened to for whatever reason, or I was on them, and people, well, why didn't we make adjustments? I didn't like our game plan.
They didn't see the open receivers. Okay.
Well, no. Some of these people that asked me these questions were at the game.
Oh, well.
In the press box. And I'm what are you talking about? Did you not see? We just missed open guys. We hit those. Let's put it this way. Anthony, I think, was 39%. I think it was like, I don't even know what it was, like maybe 13 of 35 or something like that. I bet if he completes just 3 or 4 of those balls, Florida wins the game.
Well, look.
But I mean, it's over with. But what I'm trying to say is all these Gator fans, Napier, he's got to get adjusted to calling plays in the SEC. He's got to do this. Look, if we don't throw 2 interceptions and we complete maybe 4 more balls, we win the game.
I think 2 things you said. What is quarterback play all about, QB? One of them
is decision-making and throwing completions.
And accuracy, okay? You can use that word. And so let's give this kid a little bit more time. I mean, he's only started 4 times. Is that right?
That was his 3rd start, I guess.
3rd start, for God's sakes, folks.
Now I agree with all that, but I have a problem. And again, it just goes back. He's not a great thrower. Nobody's ever going to change my mind on that. And y'all heard me talk about it for 2 years now. It ain't going to change people.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean he can't win games. But just because it's his third start and you miss that many open guys, it ain't got nothing to do with your third start.
Well, but you talked about confidence. Confidence comes from success. This guy hasn't had time to be successful yet. He's had 3 starts.
Well, hell, they wanted to give him the Heisman Trophy last week.
Well, that's overreaction week 1. It always happens, QB. It always happens. But look, 3 weeks ago, QB, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we said if Florida ends up 1-1 out of these first 2 games, obviously hoping to beat Kentucky. But if they still end up 1-1, how are you going to feel? And it was a unanimous result. We'll feel pretty good about it. And, they're going to be 2-1 after this weekend and go to Tennessee. And hell, I mean, it's not like Tennessee's better, but they're not going to win the SEC. So come on. I mean, give yourself a chance here. You got 6 of the first 7 games at home, folks. That's a pretty good stuff. That's a good way to start the year with a young team. And
Scott says, one final Kentucky note. QB, you had your best day throwing the football with 361 yards passing against the Wildcats in 1991. At that time, that was the 3rd highest total in school. I didn't even know that. So we jumped on the Wildcats in 91, 28-0, and then we couldn't stop Pookie Jones. He made it close.
Pookie.
That was the game. That was the game. I threw for one, ran for one,
and you ran for one and caught one. Yeah, I remember you running your little white uniform. You went left, and you just hit the gas pedal in the end zone. We couldn't believe it. I was at the old P.J. O'Reilly's restaurant watching that game up there in the cold in Kentucky. That was a good day. But dude, this team is not 1991. There's very little that reminds me of 91 with this team. So
I want to hear this. I don't go back and listen to the broadcast, but I think I need to. Todd says on Facebook Live, he says, QB, you made national news this morning on Sirius Radio on your call, oh, Lord, in the background of Sean's call when AR – because when he released it, I said, oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
I knew it was a pick 6.
Yeah.
And I'm not supposed to say that, but I couldn't help it because I just saw it before it happened.
Don't you change one bit your style of being what you are in that booth, because that's why you're in there. Yeah, you're in there to tell us about the X's and O's and all that, but any guy who played in football can pretty much do that. What you're good at is giving us you, and that's why you're in that box, and that's fine. If you want to say, oh, Lord, when a guy jumps a route, then oh, Lord.
Well, it just happened. I mean,
what about that guy Georgia? We're gonna with a hobnail boot. Get him, dog.
Well, he's the play. That's Larry Munson. He's the play-by-play guy, so he can do that.
Okay, so we've never heard a color guy raise hell in the booth. Come on, I think it's great. I love the call, and it makes me. Well, I know you. Okay, so I've known you for 30 years. But that's you. That's what you, and that's fun. That's good. That's what we want out there. So don't change a bit. If a guy jumps a route next week, oh, Lord. Maybe that'll be your calling card. Be oh, Lord. I mean,
he said I said oh, Lord, like LAWD. I don't think I said it quite.
Oh, Lord.
I don't know.
Okay, you're from the South, QB. You're from Mississippi, baby. Oh, Lord. I mean, that's okay. Listen, the guy jumped the rat. We all saw it, and Anthony handed it to him. So look, that's just okay. QB, we've always said interceptions happen.
Oh, yeah.
Fumbles happen. Things like this happen. It's football.
Here's the funny thing to me. I said this to somebody the other day. They were like, I guess this was after the Utah game. Man, I don't know if we needed to play Montreal Johnson with that fumble. I looked at a guy and go, come on. Everybody's going to fumble. I said, okay, when our quarterback throws interceptions, you want to put him on the bench? Mm-hmm. I've never understand people's thought process there. All right, we got a bunch of texts to get to here, JC. Hang on. Yeah. This one's from Bradley. He says, Shane, congratulations on the XFL job. I can't wait to watch. I appreciate it. Yeah, it should be fun. Let's see. And nothing's going to change with the podcast. We will still do a podcast. I don't know how it's going to – I got to figure out when we're going to practice and all that stuff. So podcast will stay put. This is from Daryl. Good morning, guys. JC, why does Texas fans get so butthurt over the horns down sign? I mean, everybody does gestures to other teams. Look how many times Florida fans have had the Gator chomp done back to them.
Well, I don't know. I think Texas is a very sensitive place. I mean, they are kings of the world, right? And that's what they feel like. That's what they believe in, even though they've accomplished nothing hardly. So, yeah, certainly. It's, and I agree with what Saban did. He was verbally upset with his team for doing that, walking off the field after they should have lost the football game. So, you got to act like you've been there before. And many of these kids that have played for Alabama have not been there before. The name has, the brand has, the fans have, the coaches have, but the players have not. They're young. So, you got to teach. This is a teaching moment. Texas fans are butthurt about a lot of things, and the first thing is how bad they have been in the last 10 years. So, I think they're on their way back, though. But here's the thing about Texas. They cannot go and fool around with Texas Tech and Kansas State, who's, by the way, pretty damn good. And schools like this, they cannot go fooling around after showing up against Alabama. They have to continue to bring the same intensity and the same physical nature that they had against Alabama in subsequent games. And that's when we'll know whether or not Texas is serious, because everybody can have a good day.
All right, a couple of texts here. Anonymous texter, 100% agree with you, QB. I am encouraged by the loss because the defense looked like it's taking a leap forward. I still have question marks there because Kentucky was so bad on the O-line. Bottom line is, if Richardson completes 50% of his passes in that game, Gators win by 20 points. Gator fans need to calm down. Agree. This says, who is this from? It's Kevin in Punta Gorda. Lots of Xbox QBs out there, Shane. Think they know the best way. I guess he's referring to people talking about that Billy needs to make adjustments. I mean, listen, if you've ever been in a locker room, even if you're winning the game, you make adjustments because you have to be thinking, okay, what are they going to do in their adjustments? You got to, and I thought his plan was fine. I thought we threw the ball too much. We had to throw it at the end to try to come from behind, but I thought we threw it too much. But it is what it is. We've got to play better defense, though, when we go to Knoxville. JC, let's get to the Peachland Dental. Yeah. Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com. We do our Thursday night NFL pick since you won't be here tomorrow. Wow. You're at 13-14 on the year. I'm at 11-16. We got the Chiefs and the Chargers, two of the premier QBs in the league.
In an attempt to get back to 500 here. These two teams are at the top of the AFC, QB. Clearly, the talent is there. I'm going to take, last year the Chargers beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. To me, without Keenan Allen, I think that's something that.
What happened to him? He hurt?
I think he's hurt, or he's not 100% after that first game. I'm going to take Kansas City laying the 4.5, only because I really do believe in Andy Reid. I believe in the Chiefs. I think they're going to challenge Buffalo for the AFC.
All right, I didn't know Keenan Allen's out, but I'm still going to stick with the Chargers.
No, I didn't say he was out, but he got banged up.
It doesn't matter. I'm still taking the Chargers. So before we let you go, Greg asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon, who is your Orlando QB room? Don't know, Greg. We have a draft in Vegas in November, and we'll go from there.
Well, I might just go with you just to hang out and watch.
Well, just so people know, the XFL is owned by a lady named Danny Garcia and Dwayne Johnson, The Rock or whatever. He owns the league. So there's 8 teams. You can Google it and research it and all that. Bob Stoops is the head coach. Scotty Spurrier coaches with him. They don't call them the Dallas team; they call them the Arlington team. Hines Ward coaches the San Antonio team.
Is GA going to be coaching?
No, he's not one of the coaches. I looked at the whole list of all the coaches around the league, so it should be fun. So we'll see. Go down there in Orlando and see if we can win some games. We don't even know our nickname yet.
Well, I love that it's in the spring for you, so that gives you football pretty much for the majority of the year. QB.
Yeah, and they got some affiliation with the NFL, so we'll see if it how long it lasts. So
maybe you can get the offensive coordinator's job in Denver after that colossal, pathetic excuse of a way to finish the game against Seattle the way they did and fumbling the ball in the end zone. Yeah, I mean, you'd coach in Denver, wouldn't you? So, I just hope it succeeds for at least more than 1 year. Hey, big games this weekend before you let me go, QB. The only ones, this is week 3's got some really weak games, so to speak. But I am encouraged, or I should say interested in what Florida State and Louisville are going to do Friday night. It's a Friday night game. Mm-hmm. I think Friday night game, Florida State, Louisville. Then really you've got kind of a lean schedule on Saturday, but Penn State is at Auburn. We'll make these picks on Friday.
What time is the Penn State Auburn game?
So that Penn State Auburn game is at 3:30. So
okay, good. I can watch some of that.
Yeah, you can watch some of that. And the Mississippi State LSU game you will not be able to watch much of. It's at 6. And really, outside of that, you've got UTSA and Texas, and that's what I'm saying. The Longhorns need to just stick it.
Oh, the Horns have to play the Roadrunners?
So it's a tough game. Tough game coming off that Alabama game. And then the for me would be in College Station, where Miami's coming down with Van Dyke and the boys to play A&M. So that
I've never rooted for Miami, but I think I want Miami to win this game.
I kind of think I do too.
I want to see Texas A&M lose to Miami, and Mississippi State's going to beat them, Alabama's going to beat them, and Arkansas is going to beat. Wouldn't that be something?
Well, yeah, and then of course the Gators play there late in the year. Oklahoma plays Nebraska. I would not be surprised if Nebraska puts up a good fight. You know, Scott Frost lost 10 games inside of one score as a coach of Nebraska, and just think if he wins half those games, he'd still be the coach there. And that was so bad that they basically said, we'll pay the extra $7.5 million instead of waiting 2 weeks. Now, what Trev Alberts may have done on the buyout is say, dude, we'll give you 8, 9 right now, or you get 7.5 in 2 weeks because we're going to get rid of you either way. And Scott may have taken that. So it's not automatically known that he got the full payout. That's all I'm trying to say.
All right, JC, good stuff, my man. We'll talk to you on Friday. Get all your picks ready to go on Friday. Preparation, JC, preparation. Don't be like the Denver coach.
Oh, God, that was bad. Looking forward to hearing what Mike Morgan has to say. He's good. I like him.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. Going to take a time out, come back. We'll have Mike Morgan from the ESPN join us on the Titan MR Hotline. You're watching and listening to Pod Up Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Escape Apology, F45 Training, Regal Cinemas, Dave & Buster's, Nike Prime and Pearl, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurs Gridiron Grill, where you can get Head Beer Coach American Lager in 16-ounce cans at Spurrier's, Visors, and at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. Going to head to the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to be joined by ESPN's Mike Morgan, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Good morning, partner. How are you?
I'm well, Shane. How you doing?
Good. Let's start with your game that you called this weekend in college football. You called the Oklahoma game.
Right.
I saw some tweets and stuff, and you said, you know, the Sooners are ready for the SEC with their facilities.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you've been there?
It's the first time in 10 years. And it's got a lot. It was impressive 10 years ago, but maybe it's because I know they're going into the SEC. I've started to make myself give not a self-examination. That'd be awkward. Do that on my own time. But to give an examination of Oklahoma and start to look at it in the perspective of how do they fit in the SEC? Because what's interesting to me, Shane, is that since the news came out about Texas and OU coming to the SEC, which I think is going to happen a year early in 2024, just my opinion, everybody's been goo gaga over Texas. Texas this, Texas that. I'm here to tell you, Oklahoma is a much better program and has been for 20 years.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's won more games than any program in college football since World War II. Oklahoma just consistently, they won 6 straight Big 12 titles. that you could almost mark it down. It's an automatic. They're going to win 10 or more games every year. And the facilities, while they're not as, I don't know, everybody just loves Austin, and I get it. I've been to Austin. It's a different kind of city. Norman feels like an SEC town, and the facilities are ridiculously good. The fans are SEC quality, if you will. Everything about Oklahoma tells me they're the ones that are going to go right into this league and not miss a beat, as compared to Texas, who still has to figure things out.
No, I agree 110% with that. All right, let's switch gears real quick because we got a couple of Facebook Lives, and then we're going to dive into the Gators and the SEC. You also were on the call for the Bears 49ers at Soldier Field. Andy, who's a big Bears fan here up in Chicago, says, Mike, what was your opinion on Justin Fields on Sunday, and had you ever seen a penalty for toweling off on the field?
Yeah. Do you know what he's talking about?
No, I do not.
So everybody has seen the video now, right? Like, it rained all day. It was an absolute quagmire. I mean, it was something like an NFL Films documentary from a game in the 1950s where the weather's crappy and the field is crappy, but we loved it for that. Well, that's what Soldier Field looked like, because it was a deluge for the better part of 5 hours. So the holder went out there, and before the kicker went to kick the field goal, he wipes the ball with the towel. And I didn't know this was a rule. Everybody remembers the snowplow game with the Patriots and the Dolphins back in the 80s, where the guy illegally went and plowed the snow out to clear a path for the kicker, and they got away with it. Well, in this case, he was trying to get away with taking the ball, and when he's on the field, he takes his towel, dries it up, they go to kick the field goal. So the officials are huddling and like, what is this all about? And the official call was illegal use of the towel, and it's a 15-yard penalty. It's not like, it's no joke. It knocked him out of field goal range. So no, I've never seen anything like that at any level. I don't think that's a rule in college. If it is, I don't know. I've never heard of it.
So did the holder go after they spotted the ball for the field goal? Did he go pick the ball up? Or did he bring in the ball? Because, they have a kicking ball. At least they used to have kicking balls and game balls.
Right.
Did he run the kicking ball in, scrubbing it?
He did the scrub on the field. It wasn't on the sideline. So he comes out there on the field, and you see him with the towel drying the ball, and then he tosses the evidence. So we have diabolical evidence. We have DNA on the towel that he throws right there on the field before they actually kick the ball. And that drew the flag. Never seen that before in my life.
Yeah. What'd you think about? Is that your first time you've been to Soldier Field since they've redone it?
It is. That's the first time I've ever been to Soldier Field. I've been to Chicago. First time I've ever been there. First time I've ever done a game there. It's weird, man. So when you played, they'd already done this thing where they built the UFO inside the museum.
So I played the same damn stadium, Walter Payton, and the Super Bowl champs. Like, it was just old, it was Chicago, Yeah. And so I was there 7 of my 14 years.
Right.
I've only been back to the new Soldier Field once when I was with Buffalo for a preseason game.
Right.
And we're driving in. I mean, I'd seen pictures of it, from watching games. But once I walked out of the tunnel, I was like, this is the weirdest damn thing ever, because I was so used to the old historical part of it with the columns and all that. Yeah, it's strange.
Great fans, but that stadium, it didn't do much for me, although we had great sight lines, which, as you know, being a radio booth guy now, that means everything. I mean, what they're doing at a lot of colleges, they're sticking you guys at like the 10-yard line, upper deck, and you could barely see the field. That's tough to do your job. We were right there. But their talk now is they're going to get a suburban stadium. They're not even going to stay there much longer. They're going to be out like a half hour away and go that route.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Real quick, Dan asked, Mike, did you go to Ray's Barbecue in Norman while you were there?
No, it's funny. I went to you and I both know the same guy, Heath Klein, who I went to school with there. He recommended a Mexican place, and don't even ask me to pronounce the name or remember the name. I went to a great Mexican place one night, and then a terrific Italian restaurant. The crew, Ryan Leaf and I and our producer, went to a terrific Italian restaurant the night before the game. So, like a lot of SEC towns, like 20 years ago, you'd just be happy to get a meat and three. But now there's so much money that are pouring into these campuses and the enrollment's going up. I mean, it's just like Gainesville. The restaurants now compared to when you and I went to school, it's night and day, man.
Yeah.
We were happy to get like Shoney's back in the day. A Leonardo's Pizza was a good day back in the 90s. Well, all these SEC towns now have the money and the enrollment and the alums where they're building up some really nice restaurants.
All right, let's switch to the Gators. I know you were. I want to say the Oklahoma game was going on at the same time.
I went back and watched the Florida game, though. In fact, it was on last night. I replayed it on ESPNU.
Yeah, just give me your thoughts. Obviously the turnovers cost the Gators. I thought Stoops had a tremendous game plan, but if Anthony just completes 50% of his passes, I think the Gators win the game.
All I kept saying as I was watching bits and pieces of the game and the highlights, and then rewatching it in its entirety, is Shane Matthews was right. Shane Matthews has been saying this. Like it was a validation to me of what you've been saying as it pertains to AR. And again, not trying to beat up the kid. He's still got a chance to be a great quarterback. He's like a lot of the guys in the SEC. Like Spencer Rattler, if you watched any of the South Carolina game, he had 3 plays in that game where receivers beat their man deep and he overthrew them. And then he had a terrible pick. Doesn't mean he's a terrible quarterback. He's never going to get better. But we get all goo-goo gaga off the athletes. And, I mean, the overreaction to AR after week 1 was insane. He didn't have so much as a touchdown pass. Right. And they're talking about Cam Newton, Vince Young, and I'm like, pump the brakes, man. Like, he's not there yet. And when I watched the Kentucky game, and I try to warn people about Kentucky, like, yeah, the offensive line is down, and you saw that firsthand. Yeah. But that was a dangerous team, and the getting Jordan Wright back at linebacker was bigger than most people knew. But AR just did not have a good game. It's not all on him, but they don't have great wide receivers. You and I have talked about that in the offseason. But I saw a young quarterback who has great physical skills, but when they needed him to complete certain passes in key spots, he didn't do it. And so often that's what the game comes down to for a quarterback, right? It's not how big you are and how much you can run. Like, you got to be accurate in certain big plays in a game if you're going to win an SEC ball game like that.
Yeah, it's a learning experience. They'll bounce back this week, and we'll talk next week when we head up to Knoxville. Did you get to see a lot of the Alabama-Texas game?
That was on. Well, I'm in the hotel room, so I got that on, and I'm going back and forth between the Gamecock Arkansas game. So yeah, I saw enough to where I wasn't believing my lying eyes. Like, how is this game close? What's going on? But I will say this. I mean, here's the difference between some of the quarterbacks we were just talking about and Bryce Young. When they needed that final drive, was there any doubt that Bryce Young was going to go out there and make every play and dissect and be cool, calm, and collected, just like he did against Auburn last year? Mm-hmm. He single-handedly won that game last year against Auburn. And on that final drive, it was Bryce Young personified. That's why he's the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, he came up with some big plays, but I'm a little concerned, and it could be overreaction, but Alabama to me, and I think their receivers will get better, but they didn't have that explosiveness on the outside that we've seen the last few years.
No, they don't. Here's the thing about Alabama this year and Clemson the last couple of years. They don't have, where you look at the wide receiver room, first rounder, all just like on the field at the same time, where it's just an embarrassment of riches, and it's almost impossible for a defensive coordinator to take away all of the above. So somebody's going to be running free. That someone last year was Jamison Williams. Who is that this year for Alabama? I'm not sure. No one's going to feel sorry for Alabama's weapons. They're still good, but I don't know if they're the level of what we've seen in the past. Their offensive line looks a little bit leaky to me, and so. Again, we're picking gnat dung at a pepper, if you will, because Alabama's still a great football team and they still might win the national championship, but they don't look as dominating as before. The thing is, they could drop a game, just like Georgia could drop a game, and they're still probably going to win their division, because who else is going to take that spot? So you drop a game, you still get to Atlanta, and you're still one win away from an SEC title and an automatic berth in the college football playoff.
Yeah, good point. And Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Mike Morgan on the Titan Hotline, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. All right, let's talk about what's going on in College Station. I saw where the Mountaineers had like 83 offensive plays to like 38 for A&M. And I was talking to JC earlier. A&M's got the Hurricanes this week. Then they got the Hogs, then Mississippi State, and then Alabama. I mean, it could get bad if they don't get it right quickly.
There's a couple things here. First one to me, I don't want to say I'm shocked, but I'm a little bit surprised they didn't go with Max Johnson. I had Max for an LSU game last year. The kid didn't miss a pass. I mean, I get it, and I think it was you that I was talking to about this a couple weeks ago. It seems like all those quarterback battles, when the coach was in doubt, when it was like neck and neck and they didn't know who they were going to go with, they wound up picking the guy who ran better. And in a number of those situations, I'm like, I don't know if that, like Haynes King's a terrific athlete and he's fast as heck. But Max Johnson's the guy that is going to complete balls in that offense. So I thought Jimbo was going to go with Max. I'm surprised he didn't. I still think he'll make that switch, but that's not going to cure all the problems that plagues Texas A&M. They're just not that good. They're just not that good. All that talk about they're the third best team in the SEC, and I kept saying, well, based on what? Mississippi State was my pick for second best in the West. We'll see how they do this week, but. Yeah, I wasn't bullish on the Aggies at the beginning of the year, and I'm not bullish on the way things are going now. Now, look, Jimbo is not going to get fired at the end of this. This is not a Scott Frost situation, nor should it be. But I'll tell you this much. Next year, you went 4-4 last year in the SEC. You just lost to a Sun Belt team, and you wonder how many they're going to drop this year. 2023 could get ugly in College Station if things don't start turning around with all those 5-star recruits coming in.
Yeah, it's mind blowing how bad they are right now. John asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law, Mike, what was it like working with Ryan Leaf? How is he as a color guy?
So I'd never met him before. I'd never so much as spoken to him before. Obviously, I knew who Ryan Leaf was and watched him. He was fantastic. Here's a guy that's been through a lot, and he's not afraid to tell you, look, I've done the like he'll joke around. He'll say, somebody will talk about being in a difficult situation. He'll be like, yeah, do you know what it's like to be in prison? I do. Like he's very upfront about everything, every mistake he's made, everything he's been through. He's got his life turned around. He's got children now. He's got a woman he's in love with. He just set up shop now in Connecticut because he's got a new talk show going on over there. The knowledge, as you know, like so many of you guys that played the position at a high level, the knowledge is there, but that doesn't always translate to being a good analyst. Right. He was really good on air. He knew the when and the why, and I thought he was terrific and on a personal level, a really good dude to work with. So I really enjoyed working with him. It's the first time, probably won't be the last, but it was a lot of fun on Saturday.
Yeah. So Tennessee Volunteers go to Pitt, have a big win in overtime. They had to play against a backup quarterback, but that's a good win on the road against a pretty good team.
Yeah, it is. Look, they lost that game last year in heartbreaking fashion. They win this one in overtime fashion, and it's one of those swing games that can help define your season. I still want to see how that defense is going to hold up against SEC competition. I know they're going to score points, and I know Hendon Hooker is going to put up numbers. I just want to see what they do defensively. That's my only question about Tennessee. The Florida-Tennessee game, which used to be must-see television, it still is for some of us, but that's a very juicy matchup to me. Florida's just got to get off the mat. I mean, I get it. It's overreaction Saturday for the second consecutive week. Everybody was way too high on Florida after the win, probably going to be way too down after the loss. Mm-hmm. This game, to me, can go a long way in kind of defining what your season looks like and where the program is and what's the trajectory of Anthony Richardson moving forward.
John on Facebook Live. We got a bunch of Facebook Lives and texts I'm going to try to get to here. Mike, what do you make of Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame? He's now 0-3 as a head coach.
By the way, I didn't want to. No disrespect to the South Florida Bulls, but I am looking ahead. I know you got.
We can do
We
that.
can
We're
do
not in the
that.
locker room.
We can do that. I mean, I don't know what the USF has fallen off a cliff. They were actually
Yeah.
pretty decent there for a while. Look, the Marcus Freeman situation. That hire was applauded, and a lot of the national media folks broke out the pom poms when that hire was made. And he might turn out to be a great hire. Seems like a good dude, and the players love him, and a lot of people wanted him to get the job. That's all a great story. It's been well documented. But man, you're Notre Dame, and what you're hoping is because you could have had it's Notre Dame. You can hire almost anybody that you want that's out there in terms of a hot candidate. You don't want Bob Davie 2.0. I mean, you think of what but people can hate on Brian Kelly all they want. But what that dude did was he took a program that grossly underachieved under Tyrone Willingham, Charlie Weiss, and Bob Davie. I mean, that is a trio of bad hires back to back to back in South Bend before Brian Kelly went in there and made them a perennial winner. So now you rolled the dice on a guy with limited experience and no head coaching experience. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be really, really interesting what that looks like in a couple weeks, in a month. But Marshall at home, man, I mean, I'm loving the Sun Belt success. I think it's a great story, but you just can't lose that game.
Yeah, you can't. It's Lauren says Marcus is a good dude. Hope he gets better quick. Yeah, I think they'll. Well, they lost
got a good recruiting class coming in. I know that.
Yeah. So, and they lost their quarterback, but
right.
As I've said before, that may be a blessing. Maybe the other dude's a little bit better.
Right. Yeah.
On Titan our text line from Greg, he said, Mike, can we get your thoughts on Auburn, Penn State? Could it be similar to the Florida-Utah game with Penn State traveling to an SEC environment?
I think so. On our podcast, JC and Morgan, that was one of the games I was forced to pick. And I really didn't want to, but Auburn's getting 2.5 points at home, and I've anguished over it. But for some reason, I just said, yeah, at Jordan-Hare Stadium, Brian Harson's job. I mean, I think he's fighting for his job almost every week this year. Yeah, I think they can do it. I want to believe they can pull that off at home. If this was anywhere else but at Auburn, I'd say no. But I want to believe that they can squeak it out against a Penn State team. It's certainly better on paper. This is one of those where the intangibles just have to take over for Auburn.
Barry on the Titan MR text line from Dallas, Texas. Says, Mike, who are your Heisman front runners as of today?
So early, man. I mean, look, if Alabama keeps winning and winning and winning, Bryce Young is going to be right up there. If Ohio State keeps winning and winning and winning, C.J. Stroud is going to be right up there, even though that Ohio State offense is not exactly lit it up. But you and I have talked about this before. They don't give Heisman trophies to 7-5 teams anymore, like a player that leads a 7-5. Like, you got to be on a really, really good team or just have one of the most game-breaking years. And I know there'll be a Will Anderson contingent, and he's terrific at Alabama as a defensive player. It's just so hard to win that position, that award as a defensive end, because you're basically basing it on what sacks and tackles for loss. You're not gonna rack up many other stats as at that position. I know I'm forgetting some guys. Shane,
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, if Southern Cal has that breakthrough year, right?
I don't think they're going to lose. I really don't.
You don't think so at all?
Here's and I've only watched clips of them.
Right.
But the old Southern Cals would go into Stanford, and we know Stanford's not what they've been, but they'd go in there and they'd lose that game. Well, they blew them out. I just think they have so much firepower that they're going to outscore everybody. I assume Utah's going to be a difficult game, maybe Oregon.
Right.
But who knows?
Well, here's the deal on that, Shane. If they can find their way to the playoff,
right,
now we're talking. If they don't, I just think the people's outlook on the Pac-12 or the Pac-10, and who knows, by next month it might be the Pac-4, that people's viewpoint on that league is so down that I think that'll hurt him. So his team has to have a very successful year, i.e. make the playoff. Otherwise, I don't know if he's going to get that kind of consideration. On top of that, when you're on the West Coast, man, it's tough to win it because people aren't watching games very often. That's what cost Christian McCaffrey the year that he should have won it at Stanford, because people just aren't watching a lot of Pac-12 football.
Yeah, Robert says Stetson Bennett is looking pretty daggone good. Yeah,
he is. That dude will never get respect, though. I mean, it's even as I'm here in Atlanta. I mean, even his own fans are like, "Man, can't we just get somebody better?" It's like all the dude does is win.
Because those are those people that don't understand how to play quarterback. They want that. They want that big, strong arm guy who completes 30, 40% of his passes. Boy, he looks good on a 60-yard run.
Right.
He can play quarterback. Mike, before we let you go, we've had a lot of talk about Nebraska, obviously. You know, the top 5 winning programs in the 90s were Florida, Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, and Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Who can they get in there to get them back relevant? I mean, you think about it, kids nowadays don't have any idea about the history of Nebraska football, you know, that are being recruited. They don't care what happened when Tommy Frazier and those guys were playing because they weren't even thought about being born. Right. But who can they hire, in your opinion, to get them going in the right direction? You know, to go 5-22 in one-score games, which is what Scott Frost did, which is almost impossible. 5-22. It does say one thing. To lose those 22 games by one score says they're not totally devoid of talent, right? Like they weren't getting boat raced every game. Obviously, they need to upgrade recruiting, but I don't know if any coach can do that for the reasons you just said. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to pluck a Tommy Frazier out of Bradenton like Tom Osborne did back in the 90s, because I just don't know if those kids want to go to Lincoln. A lot of them are going to Columbus, Ohio. There's a lot of great Florida kids that go to Ohio State, but that's not Lincoln, Nebraska. And so with the reputation being almost non-existent. I mean, look, it wasn't like we were driving Studebakers the last time that Nebraska was really good, right? I mean, it was the 90s, not that long ago. I realized we didn't all have a cell phone. We were playing Nintendo instead of Xbox, but it's not like the footage was in black and white when Lawrence Phillips and those guys were winning national championships. I think they've tried everything. They've tried the physical coach. They've tried the defensive guy. They've tried the spread guy. And none of it has worked. So honestly, Shane, I don't know what the answer is. I know who they're going to go after. And by the way, Mark Stoops is not leaving Kentucky for Nebraska. That is the stupidest rumor. I've done enough Kentucky games and have spoken to Mark Stoops enough and know the vibe there. He ain't leaving for Lincoln. Just stop it. Matt Campbell could be another story. How about the job Leipold is doing at Kansas? Maybe he's a guy that you pick up the phone and call. Maybe you go completely off the radar and hire an NFL assistant like a position coach. I don't know. But nothing has worked. And for Trev Alberts, you have got to be like sweating every night trying to think of who in the hell can turn this around. Because they've tried it's not just Scott Frost who failed. Everybody has failed in Lincoln. He just failed to a new level. Yeah. What game are you calling this week? I've got, from an NFL standpoint, I've got Dolphins-Ravens. So heading to Baltimore. We're trying to see if I can squeeze a Saturday game. I know there's talk about working with Glennon, the former NC State NFL quarterback, who I didn't even realize just retired. So they're trying to break him in, and there's a chance I might work a game with him on Saturday. Don't exactly know where, so I'm kind of like a doctor on standby. But doing some NFL Sunday, and we'll probably work in a college game somewhere Saturday, and we'll see. As Cornell pointed out, JC, that it's not the same level of games this week. Although I think there's a couple juicy ones that you mentioned: A&M, Miami, Auburn, Penn State, Oregon, BYU, somewhat intriguing. Yeah, that's a little bit intriguing to me. How about Texas Tech, NC State? So there's a few there that are kind of juicy. You know, Power 5 versus Power 5. Let everybody know how they can listen to your podcast. Yeah, it's JC and Morgan. Not my JC, though. Not your JC. Yeah, I always got to clarify that. This JC never did TV, but he used to cover recruiting for ESPN.com and is very knowledgeable in college football. We've been doing this for a few years, and we drop it every Tuesday, drop the episode. It's free on every platform imaginable. So you got iTunes or Spotify, whatever it is. You can join us on JC and Morgan, and hope that you will. Good stuff, Mike Morgan. Have a good call this weekend. We'll touch base with you next week, my man. Always enjoy it, Shane. Thank you. Take care. That's Mike Morgan. Join us on the Titan MRI hotline. He's brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Rules Over State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Tomorrow we'll have Brent Beard, our college football analyst, join us. We'll get back to the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup as well. Have a great day out there, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.